Hi, everybody. This is David Oleski, broadcasting live from the home office here in Westchester, Pennsylvania, for the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show 5 o'clock Club. So today we're going to be interviewing the ever charming Brian Murphy. First, I just want to do a quick recap. The deadline is coming up for the show in June, on June 7th, 8th, and 9th. The deadline for that is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. Amazing, 2024. That's like just coming right up. So if you're an exhibitor, you want to get your application in for that. And then the September 2024 application deadline is March 11th. So you have a little bit of time to procrastinate, deliberate, and whatever you need to do between now and then. But so here we're going to bring Brian Murphy on board, and I'm going to tell you a little something about him. Talk about a great guy. He and I, we go way back, and we have just probably way too much fun together. Plus, he's an amazing artist, wonderful guy, just charming in every way. So here we go. Here comes Brian Murphy. Oh, the suspense is just killing me. Brian,
Okay.
cheers.
Cheers. Okay. Well, good.
How are you?
Can you see me? Good. Good to see you, Dave.
I can see you. Um, all right. So,
Happy winter solstice.
winter
Right?
solstice. This is the shortest day of the year. It was at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We had a beautiful romantic sunset, and we've been just plunged into night. Uh, I feel like I should either light a candle or look for a star or something to brighten up this long dark night we have.
Yeah. Well, you'll make it through. Don't worry. The sun will come out tomorrow, Dave.
I'm sure I will. I won't have to make up any great mythology to fill this darkness with any kind of light that it'll own good time. But it's interesting that light and color is the commodity of us, the painters, and
It is. It
yeah.
is.
And
You're right.
then this day is always it's always been a little bittersweet, just knowing it is the great eclipse of one year into the next.
Well, as long as the days start getting longer, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle living in Juneau, Alaska. No offense to anyone in Juneau, Alaska. It's a beautiful state, but
They're all
I
fine
don't know if
people.
I don't know if I could do that midnight sun thing.
Yeah,
Or
the peak of the day, it gets a little, you almost can see the sun rising, and then it just finishes going down again.
gone. Then it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, here we are. Great. I'm excited to be here. It's always good to make a connection with you, Mr. Oleski. You're right. We go back quite a few years.
We do. Sharon Strine, our fearless chairperson, says hello. Happy holidays to both
Happy
of us.
holiday,
Hello,
Sharon.
Sharon.
I've been noticing her, the painting a day, little paintings that
She's like banging it out.
Yes.
Just, I mean, all of them. Let's just talk about, not, to plug another artist's work venture, but the 25 Days of Minis,
Right.
which I think that might actually be the domain name. Just every day, there's, I don't know how many artists there are that are doing small paintings every single day from the 1st of December to the 25th. And they're all for sale. And at this point, it might be a little tight to get them in time for the holidays, but they're just great little gems, and just a broad range of artists, from the Teresa Haig, who started it, to pop artist Jeff Shaler, to Sharon, as well as artists I was surprised to see, like Ruth Davis, who typically works large gestural still lifes, doing these gorgeous, tight little studies.
Well,
So
and I wish I could be added to that list this year. I did a version of that last year, and I feel kind of guilty. I did go paint today, so I was outside painting on this beautiful winter day. So,
well, bless your heart. I just hung my last sheet of drywall today.
well, good for you. Can't wait to see that rehab.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
So back to the nuts and bolts here.
yeah,
Again, thank you for joining me, Brian.
yeah.
So how long have you been exhibiting with the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show? I probably know the answer to this, but just for all of the listening public out there.
Yeah, I, you know, I could be way off on this, but I would think at least 13 years, maybe a little more.
Really?
Maybe, what do you,
Yeah.
not that much?
I would think at least that much. I
Yeah.
mean, unless you got to the party late. I mean, I think yeah,
Let's go with 15.
go with
Let's go.
15. Good round
Yeah,
number. Yeah. So a long time. Obviously, you keep coming back, so we must be doing something right, or at least
I
the whole
do.
city of
I do.
Philadelphia is doing something right.
Listen, the organization is top notch. The people that run the show, the new director, great guy, Chris. Steve was, head of the, riding shotgun. You were riding shotgun, but he was, steering the train for all those years. Did a great job. And it's just, look, it's Philadelphia. I don't know if you don't like Philadelphia. There's something wrong with you. Okay, I love going to Philadelphia, and Rittenhouse Square. You couldn't be in a better spot. So the location of the show, the caliber of the crowd and the people, and everything just adds up to a real it's a home run.
So when you're there, I know you and I always make time to explore some of the restaurants and fine establishments all over the
Yeah,
city of
that's right.
many great services. Do you ever get a chance to actually spend time in Philadelphia as far as like the museums, the
Um,
different neighborhoods?
I have, and I've gone, independent of the Rittenhouse Square show. I've spent some time in Philadelphia too. So yeah, I've I've played tourist a couple of times in Philadelphia. Been to the museums, been to what's that? It's the medical museum. Now I'm not going to say that was my
Like
favorite.
the Mutter Museum.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
I've always wanted to go to that, and I never got together. Apparently, it's not far from the show,
Yeah.
and
Well,
probably stays with you.
yeah, some things that you don't necessarily want to stay with you, stay with you. Yeah, it's like a bad dream.
Yeah.
Been to the penitentiary. That was pretty
Ah,
fascinating.
yeah.
But no, I've done a few things in Philadelphia. Honestly, I wish I could spend more time there, but you know what it's like doing shows. Normally, you have one the weekend before and one the weekend after, and you show up, you do your thing, and boom, you're on the road Sunday night or Monday morning. So, but it is one of my favorite destination kind of shows. It's always good to get back and you know go to the Dandelion and have a nice pub experience.
Oh, yeah. So here's a question that came up in the feed. How many attendees attend at one show by Michelle Roberts? Perhaps Sharon Strine, who's also viewing right now, could bring up some figures on her device there to give us an idea of a rough estimate. It's kind of hard to estimate because it's not a gated show,
Right.
so there's not really an entrance to it. It's just there's a certain stretch through Saturday and Sunday. It's just a mob. It's,
Yeah.
it's the most people you could possibly have.
Right.
As far as what the actual number is, I can't imagine. Perhaps Sharon may have some estimates, but yeah, we get a fantastic crowd. And so as an exhibitor, it is the Philadelphia outdoor art experience you should be part of. And as a visitor to the show, well, look at us. You gotta be there. If you're in Philadelphia or any of the surrounding areas and you're not coming to that show, then you're missing out.
Yeah. I think I agree. I mean, it's I don't know if it's necessarily a destination show for people that some shows people will actually fly in.
Right.
There's shows, some big shows we both do that people will turn a vacation out of it. But if you're planning on spending a weekend in Philadelphia, pick a Rittenhouse Square show weekend because that just adds to the whole experience. And you see local artists like yourself, and you see a lot of people from out of town, and it's just yeah, it's just a really, really, really good show, and it's very heavy on, some people might think, well, you're a painter, you don't want to have too many painters at a show. Well, it's actually just the opposite. I want as many painters at an art festival so you're drawing in a crowd that's looking for paintings, and they're not looking for, not that there aren't other items to look at the show, but it's very heavily 2D art, which is a good thing
Well,
for me.
I mean, specifically, it's art done by hand. I mean, other than, possibly, collage and silkscreen, which has certain mechanical elements, there is absolutely no photography or photography-based art.
Right, right,
So as an exhibitor, you're never going to be next to somebody that's just taking orders and having work drop shipped from a
right,
manufacturer while you're trying to sell one painting and they're just selling these products that they can just pick up their phone and say ship another to this address.
right.
That's not going to happen at all at our show. That is what you see is what you get. What this artist has and what they can do with their own hands, that's it.
Right. Yep. Well, and if I'm not mistaken, originally when I first started doing the show, it was pretty much all painting, right? Or all 2D art.
No, it was originally it was limited to the tri-state area because the jury was actually bringing your work to Philadelphia and leaving in the room, disappearing for a few hours, and coming back to pick it up. This is before slides, before Zap, before anything,
Okay.
and you had to be within a certain radius to easily be in there just
Right.
for the application process. And it was just the tri-state area of Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. But then, as soon as it went to slides, it became regional and very quickly went national and even international.
Right. Well, what I guess it's always been a show where there's no photo, and I'm not knocking photography. We both have some great friends who are wonderful photographers,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
it's always more skewed towards painting and 2D. So again, it's when people show up at an event, at an art event, and they're looking for that maybe if they're not looking for wall art, 2D art, original painting, this probably isn't the show for them to go to.
Well, the thing is, we do have 3D sculpture. I mean, our executive director Chris Wanamo is carved in marble, and
Right.
we do try to make sure that we're open to any kind of non-functional fine art, including mixed media that is not just painting and sculpture and but you're right. When it becomes down to hand done, it winds up being predominantly painting. I'm looking at the feed scrolling by on my iPad here, and yeah, it's a lot of 2D work and painting of every kind.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't want to misinterpret or represent the show. You're right. There are some great sculptural pieces, and Chris is one of them. Yeah, just it's one of the shows that for me is just it's a great fit because there is so much 2D and so many painters there. Yeah.
Right. And and even though there are so many painters, we keep it diverse enough, and all of us are these really strong characters and strong presences in our own styles that
Right.
it's a really lively, colorful show. I mean, it's amazing that 140 exhibitors and there could be such a dramatic variety from just one 10 by 10 booth to the next.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
I mean, it was,
striking
yeah.
collection. So okay, so do you have any interesting stories about Philadelphia and your experience there
That I want to share with the.
that you would share with the general public?
Uh, no. I mean, I don't know. Some of my most interesting, extracurricular activity has been with you and your lovely wife, and going out to dinner. And we've had a couple of group dinners with several artists over. I think one year we went to Dandelion, and it seems like it's one of the shows where I get to socialize a little bit more because it's so easy. I mean, all the restaurants are within walking distance. You don't have to you don't have to go anywhere. You just close up your booth and boom, 5 minutes later you're enjoying a nice beverage or some really great Italian food, or northern Italian food.
Yeah, and not only the restaurants are local, but they're spectacular. I'm telling you, they were just like every one of them just knocks it out of the park, and or literally. But and that should be for any attendees that are wondering, could you make a weekend of it? You absolutely could. You book a hotel. I mean, we'll always try to stay at the Sofitel one night. If you keep on shopping through Travel Zoo, there's like amazing deals at a wonderful hotel. The Sofitel is just a few blocks from the show, and you could easily make a weekend of it and never go to the same restaurant twice as much as you might even want to, and just have just a wonderful time from lunch to dinner and the show each day, and spend time and think about things and go back and look at things again,
Right.
and just treat it like a museum experience and just take your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, you can have a great weekend. You can have, some fantastic, restaurant food and drinks, and you can also come home with a great piece of art.
Oh, here we are. Sharon just said her favorite, new favorite restaurant near the park is My Loop.
My Loop. Okay.
Loop, Loup. I've never heard of that. Well, we'll have to look into that. Somebody else is asking, what is our favorite restaurant? Well, there's just so many.
There's so
Milagro on Sansom, where we've dined a few times. They knock it out of the park. And then, but right across the street from it, Wilder. Oh man, it's like also Italian fusion, but just amazing. There's a halibut dish they have with it's just out of this world. And of course, right next to the park is the restaurant Park, spelled with a C.
Right.
French food, and they'll just bring a fresh bread basket before you ask for it, and then bring you more just to take home, so you never forget the great bread of Park and their entire menu and just the whole vibe. You kind of forget you're in this country for a few minutes.
That's probably the most, from my experience, the most like authentic Parisian experience you can get, outside of Paris. I mean, it's just really the way they've done the decor and their food and the service and everything.
Oh, and Smile Cafe for one of the exhibitors, Ken Tuchamnang, actually is the owner of Smile Cafe, a authentic Thai restaurant that the board met there for a small dinner party in September, and it was fantastic, just epic. And we can go on and on. We mentioned the Dandelion, just British pub, just standard British pub food, and just spectacular beers and the atmosphere. Just again, you forget where you are when you're sitting there, and they have a stuffed badger, wearing a suit, and just all of the props. You forget you're even in Philadelphia.
That's a must. That's definitely a must see place. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and then just to explore. I mean, there's just Metropolitan Bakery and La Colombe coffee shop, and it goes on and on. I mean, there's a lot of shows that, as I'm approaching the show, the only thing I'm thinking of is where I'm going to eat which meal. And Philadelphia is the conundrum, because there's so many choices, so many options, and they're all just great. It's really hard to decide where are we going to, so we're only there for 3 days, 3 nights, plus the setup night, and trying to make the most of it.
It is a gastronomical wonderland. What can you say?
And although I thought of something when you mentioned that Park is like the most realistic Parisian experience outside of Paris.
Yeah.
The Rodin Museum is a collection that rivals the Mausoleum in Paris
So,
of Rodin's work.
oh,
That, you know,
yeah,
so if you get a chance, you want to make a weekend of it,
right,
to do a side trip to the Rodin Museum. It's spectacular, right on Ben Franklin Parkway, right in front of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and right next to the Barnes
oh,
Foundation, with the controversial
right,
relocated
yeah.
collection. Which is, have you ever been to the Barnes Foundation?
Well, I'll tell you what, I went to it before it moved out of the neighborhood, and so this is going back a few years. So I haven't
Or
been.
when it was still in Marion County, or
Yeah, it was in the original location,
right, right.
and all the neighbors were up in arms about it moving, and listen, I don't want to get into a whole controversy here about the Barnes Museum, but the lighting and some of the you know some of the condition of the older building was at a point where maybe for the safety of the art itself it needed to be moved.
Hmm.
It it wasn't, I I don't know, it just didn't seem environmentally safe, or as safe as it should be.
Right.
um, so
And when you go to the new location, you'll see that it's almost like a building within the building, that they've replaced the locations of windows, so
right.
the work is in the same configuration around
Yeah,
these old windows, but it's in this modern new building with, skylights outside of these windows. So they've
humidity.
tried to recreate the footprint.
And they've included all the hinges and the copper, um, what are they, just metal work right in
Yeah,
between.
yeah. Well, and then they also recreated some of the most bizarre things, like the amazing pieces of art that are behind a door,
Okay.
or like, one of the Gauguin's, the card players, one of the most spectacular Gauguin paintings I've ever seen,
Right,
is hanging above something else. It's like,
right. Well,
you know,
it, I'm glad I got to see it in its original, home, that the estate of, I forget who the collector
oh,
was.
Barnes was
Barnes.
his name. Yeah.
Uh, but because it was that kind of a weird experience, you felt like you were in this kind of eccentric, mansion, going through, and there were paintings that were poorly lit, almost behind like lamps, kind of the way it is when you go to, you see your work hung in some people's homes, and they stay,
Sometimes, yes.
like you said. So anyway, it was, that's another, yeah, the museums, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I mean, that is a world-class museum, no
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it. And just the
Ab-
whole, the outdoor, what do they call that? The waterworks,
Right. Well, they call it the waterworks.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, leading into the river. And if you cruise along that, one road, along the river, you might get to see a bunch of people out there sculling, rowing.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Kelly Drive. I mean, it's gorgeous. It
yeah,
feels like the part of Philadelphia that's like a time capsule. Like there was no
right.
reason to develop it, so it's never changed for a century.
And it's right there. I mean, it's like the city, and then boom, you're there in like 2 minutes. You're driving
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous part of the city, the waterworks. There actually used to be a show there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did it the 2 years they actually ran it. It was right on, they call it the Millhouse Deck, which was the big flat area with the concrete balustrade around it,
Okay.
overlooking the water.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I met another artist, John Maurer, at
Oh,
that event.
okay. Wow.
And then that's going way back. And then they ran it twice, and then it just discontinued. And then the building changed. But oh, epic show location.
Yeah.
Just, yeah,
Right.
fantastic place to be.
Huh. Yeah.
So Brian, let's talk about your work a little bit. And so you do a lot of travel experiences, and a lot of your work is about other locations, and you actually spend time at those locations with your
I
workshop. Let me
Yeah.
hear a little bit about that.
So, well, I've been teaching travel workshops since 2007. My first workshop trip was to Ireland, and at that point, I just got very fortunate and hooked up with different groups that do workshops overseas. One specializes mostly in Italy, and another, can I plug these people?
By all means,
No?
it's all you. Go ahead.
So, Il Chiostro is the name of the company that sponsors workshops in Italy, and I've done several in Tuscany with them, and I've actually got one scheduled for September of 24 to do a workshop in Cinque Terre, Italy.
Wow.
So we're
Yeah, that's on the list of places I wanted to be. And
it's fantastic, fantastic.
yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures, I've seen your paintings from there, and just the light, the scenery. It's just, yeah, it looks spectacular.
So yeah, so that's been a real, for me, it's been probably my favorite part of my career. Let's just put it that way. Has been able to go to Italy and Ireland, went to France, southern France, southwestern France, Paris. Did a workshop last year or no, this year actually, in Spain, Costa Brava, and that was with a company called French Escapades. And it's just I get very, maybe it's my ADHD part of my personality, but I get very, if I'm, painting one subject matter for more than, two paintings, I got to switch it up and do something different. So this keeps the body of work evolving, constantly, each year when we're not in a total lockdown. I've been very fortunate.
There is that.
I've been very fortunate to be able to go overseas and spend, a week with a workshop group painting, and then, some extra time to travel by myself. So, the body of work is very heavily influenced by my travels. So, a typical show will have, paintings from local or, domestic travel as well, but quite a few paintings from Spain, Italy, France, and so on.
So a
Yeah.
lot of your work is plein air, done on location, but then you also have reference photos that
Right.
become foundations for studio work of those places.
Correct. So the workshops are plein air painting workshops. So, the whole group will go out and we'll set up and we'll paint, these beautiful, European scenes. But in addition, and, with modern technology, our little cell phone, I'm taking dozens of pictures all the way around, the scene. So when I do come back to the studio, and quite frankly, I have to be in the studio quite a bit to produce larger paintings. I'm very so plein air painting.
Right.
I I've done some larger pieces outside, but I like to get to just capture that moment. And to capture a moment, you really can't be painting 30 by 40 or something. So
Right.
and just traveling, the logistics of traveling and bringing the work home is also something to consider. So yeah, plein air painting really was the foundation of my art work experience from years ago. My days in Southern California, getting to go out and paint every day and not have to worry about it raining, because it never seemed to rain. So
That's why they call it the promised land.
maybe.
So I have a technical question for you here. It's just my own personal interest here.
Okay.
So, like specifically, you're painting from Costa Brava of the white boats
Mm-hmm.
and the quality of light and the shadows.
Right.
To me, that was just a striking rendition of a light quality that's so not here. How do you maintain your understanding of that when you're no longer there and just referencing photos?
Well, you know, I, that's a good question, because most of my work, one of the main comments people say is just your paintings have such a there's such a quality of light, or light and shadow, or a sense of warmth or whatever, right? And I honestly, I think it just comes from having experienced painting outdoors and under natural light. And like you said, I'm going to on these trips when the weather's pretty beautiful over there. It's, Ireland can be a little cloudy and overcast, but most of the other trips are, sun-filled, Tuscany days, or Costa Brava, or Spain, or France. So it just my technique of painting just kind of brings out that quality of light. There's some, you know, technical chemical things going on with the actual painting process. You're an oil painter, so you know that.
Yeah.
I also put a ground, a base on my canvas before I paint, and it's a warm, kind of an orangey, ochre tone. So that, with an oil painting, will kind of bleed through a little bit, and kind of reflect, light will reflect back, and kind of catch that, an additional level of light.
So
And
you occasionally you'll do paintings of Florida, which is a softer, hazier, more higher humidity
see that,
quality of light.
see that behind me? There you go. There's one right there.
Yeah, right there. I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
So
will.
are you able to do something like that and then just go right to here I am in Spain or coast of Italy and then this light? Are you able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
shift gears like that, or is it like a you know
yeah.
to warm up to it?
I don't know. It's just observation. It's like, you paint. We've all, done art shows in every weather, situation that's imaginable, right? And I've painted in almost every weather situation. I've painted when it's raining. I've painted, when I've got to hold on to my canvas, it's going to get blown away, or when it's freezing cold. But, you know,
Which brings us to an interesting question here. What do you pack for your mobile outdoor studio? I was wondering that too. Like, what do you bring to be ready for whatever happens? I mean, is it the same colors you would use at home in the studio?
it is. It is. My palette stays consistent. It's the same, six colors. There might be an added color occasionally, but it's a fairly limited palette. Yeah, I use that indoors, outdoors. It's I when I like when students show up, and especially students that are kind of new to painting, they've got more supplies than I've ever had. They show up with everything. It's like they're showing me things. I'm like, what is that? That's cool. I've got a very,
Barrier cream for your
yeah.
hands.
I mean, they've got, they they show up with great stuff. So no, my setup is always been very simple. It's pretty basic. I've got a French easel, and tubes of paint, brushes. That's it. It's old school. There's
Well,
no.
so what kind of medium are
So
you
I'm using
using?
a walnut. Okay, that's a good question, because I don't put a varnish on the paintings, after the fact, like 6 months after they dry, because hopefully they're not still in my possession 6 months later. So I'm trying to, so I'm drying, I'm drying paintings on the
Yeah.
dashboard of my car. I show up at a show and I've got like 3 new paintings on my dashboard. But I'm using a walnut alkyd oil. Hang on a second. And it's just that's what I use. And it's yeah, it's made by Graham, I believe. Yeah.
Oh,
So the alkyd, um the walnut oil is, it's like the linseed oil, walnut oil, whatever. But the alkyd helps it, the drying time speed up a little bit. So some of the paintings, especially if it's a little warm, can be, I can do a painting on Wednesday out there in the warm Florida climate, and by Friday, boom, I'm throwing it in a frame, and showing it at the next show I do. So
so how would you describe your color palette? Mine is I found out it's called the Split Six, a warm and cool version of each of the primaries.
okay. I would, I mean, just based on the way I, use the six colors that I have in my palette, I would just call it a warm palette. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I have I try to mix all the colors. So I used to use sap green quite a bit, which is a pre-mixed green, nice warm
Yeah.
green. But I've been tending to mix more with cerulean blue and yellow, cad yellow and cad medium, and kind of. I think it's gotten my colors even warmer,
Yeah.
kind of brighter. So, but you can dull colors down, gray them down as well. And so the key is to have the colors cohesive and really mingle together naturally, whether it's a bright painting or it's a moody painting. You have to kind of keep those colors. You got to mix those colors.
Right.
A little bit.
Your crisp, cool shadows.
Yeah,
That's from the cerulean blue and whatever to drop it down dark.
right, right. Yeah. Well, it's the old theory: warm light, cool shadows, or you can flip it and do cool light, warm shadows. It's I've got to remind myself as I'm painting occasionally, some of these theories that you learn along the way, because it helps make give a little drama to a painting.
Right. Oh, well, here's one. When you painted in Western France.
Yeah.
Where exactly in Western France?
Okay. So the close. Well, we flew into Toulouse. Okay. So southwestern. And the closest village, it was on the Dordogne and Lot River Valley, which are these ancient rivers,
All right.
cliffs, cave, the old cave paintings and all that. And Puy-l'Evêque was the closest village to where our workshop was. So not
So,
not
so, so, what is the color of atmospheric perspective?
what say it again.
What is the color of atmospheric perspective? Like all of like Western France, south of France, it's like they designed it to be painted. And as things get further away, they
Yeah,
become a color as they gray out. What color is that?
I don't know. I didn't study for this test like I should have. And
Well, I mean, these are things I'm curious to know. I mean, just for my own I mean, I'm
well,
sorry for all of you viewers out there. This is
the
tech talk
light,
that it's things I really want to know about. The
yeah.
other question is cerulean blue. What other blues?
So, well, ultramarine, French ultramarine.
Like,
That's it. No,
but not cobalt?
no, no, no
Really?
cobalt.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
okay,
Wow.
easy. Well,
That's harsh. That's harsh.
my first little impression, plein air painting, I can remember like it was yesterday, and it wasn't yesterday, but it felt like yesterday. Little 8 by 10 sitting on, the cliff overlooking Laguna, Southern California, where I was living at the time. Showing, I wasn't actually living. I was in Southern California. Let's just put it that way. And I didn't have cerulean blue in my palette. Okay, I had like 4 colors, 5 colors, and one was the ultramarine blue. So if I wanted to warm it up, it's kind of hard to do that. Ultramarine is kind of a blue that's going onto the purple
Right.
end of the spectrum. So until I discovered cerulean blue, my paintings didn't have that sense of warmth, because there's just a warm, you know, robin's egg blue right out of the tube, and then you mix it with other colors, obviously. But
Right.
um, so, what was the question?
Yeah, just what other blues and not cobalt
Well,
blue
yeah,
and
I mean, alizarin. Everyone's got alizarin crimson and French ultramarine. I mean, I don't know any artist that doesn't have that in their palette, right? Then you've got cad red and cad yellow,
yeah.
and So then I discovered another great color, permanent green light.
Oh yeah,
So
that was my art school go-to.
yeah, if you want to just hit that crazy bright, like you almost can't look at it straight on green. Boom, little permanent green light, little
Or I
cad. Yeah,
I found that permanent green light is the color of volume. That when you fluff it up with
yeah,
white, that suddenly it becomes dimensional
right.
in
And
ways that everything else drops away.
you can use it and cerulean blues this way. If you do a shadow, a tree in shadow, you want to get that shadow side dimensional. You can throw cerulean blue, just straight up little strokes and permanent green light into the shadow color, and it's bright, but there's something about it. Until you add yellow and white to it, it's almost a little on the dull side, and that can be a great shadow color too. But
So, so
yeah,
I noticed our comments screeched to a halt when we went off into color theory. But somebody just came up with, what about olive green?
olive green, like the name of the paint is olive green,
It
or
probably is. I mean, I'm guessing it's like a warmer,
right.
lighter version of
No,
sap green, maybe. I mean,
I
it's a pre-mixed colors that a lot of old school painters
right.
like Brian and myself, we learned to work with primaries or versions of primaries to create all of the nuances in between
Well,
them.
that's what I do. I'd rather. That's another thing when some students show up and they've got 30 colors. It's like they've got four purples. No, no, you don't purple. Just go back to color theory. Red, blue, purple.
So, right.
So
And then there's a thing that happens in your mind when you understand how to make those colors, and instead of depending on a pre-mixed version of it.
right, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It keeps your the look of the painting is cohesive. So in other words, I'm okay. I sketch all the paintings out first with a very thin, loose, um, watery, drippy, sketch. Okay, so I'm mixing my a little bit of terp and some of my walnut alkyd oil, and then I put in four different colors. So it comes out to be this brown, basically a brown tone, right?
Right.
And I've students, why don't you just sketch with blue, or why don't you just sketch with one color? What's the point? Because now you've got four of your six colors are on the canvas in this sketch. It's a loose sketch, but it's blocking out shadow and light and so on. So when you go and lay in your other colors into that color, all of a sudden there's some DNA in there from all the other colors. And then
Right.
this, it looks like my palette looks very sloppy, and it looks very like, how could you get these clean colors out of this little palette? And that's another story. But that again, the DNA of having that. Oh, what did we call? We used to call it something when you'd save that little pot of color that you mixed up for your sketch
It
onto.
looks like a soup stock.
Yeah, it's like a soup stock. So sorry, I'm gonna knock the
Like a,
phone off
like,
here.
like
So
a
yeah,
starter base for the new fermentation or something.
right. As opposed to trying to keep everything separated and clean,
Right.
get it a little, and it's not going to turn it into a dirty painting. It's going to, again, it's just going to give your colors more of a cohesive, feel. How do you like that?
Okay, so for all the people that are tuned in now, and all the people that are watching this in the future when this is saved and can be watched later, this is a great example of how much the artists are like so immersed in their work, and you can just come to the show and just see the end product of it, but the backstory behind it all is like this. It's so technical and so detailed and nuanced, and it evolves for all of us in all of these ways that it just goes on, and it'll be different this year than it is next year. And Thank you, Brian, for letting me go down this rabbit hole.
Well, you're welcome. And it's fun talking about it because, most artists, and I'm sure you're the same, we're in our studios by ourselves. We got music or something playing, but, we're not verbalizing what we're doing. And that's another thing I love about teaching. It gets me right back to, where I started, years ago. And I learn from students too. I pick up a few, oh, wow, that was interesting what you just did, or, so it's fun. Yeah. I appreciate you inviting me to your forum here.
Oh, thank you for joining us. This was great. I'm sure this will be a great, this is some great technical information here. I'm sure anybody any painter that tunes in or watches this later, these are pearls of wisdom here. And by all means, I'll have a link to Brian Murphy's Instagram profile posted with this,
Okay.
so you can follow him and even message him and ask about some of these workshops
Yeah.
that he does. They're
Yeah.
as well as travel experiences, they're amazing art experiences,
Absolutely.
and a great asset that this is your guy right here. This is
And
the guy you want.
if anyone wants to just email me directly, um, Brian Murphy Oils, plural, OILS, @gmail.
There you
But
go.
yeah, send me a message on Instagram. I just posted a little reel for the workshop just a few hours ago. So yeah, I'd be happy to give anybody more information on that or anything
That'd be
else.
great. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you go here, and everybody out there, happy holidays,
Yeah,
happy solstice. It's a new year coming. It's going to be a great year. I mean, all things are, they're just always getting better. I don't understand how that happens, but it does. And thank you all for tuning in and for watching. And again, the upcoming show, June 7th and 9th, the deadline for exhibiting artists is January 9th. So you seriously want to consider this if you're anywhere near Philadelphia, and as a attendee, by all means, keep an eye on our website, rittenhousesquareart.com, and find any information you need about the show. And by all means, in the spring, come, you'll see me, you'll see Brian. You can follow up on this conversation, ask us some specific questions,
that's
and
good.
see the work that comes from this.
Very good.
And thank you again, Brian.
Hey, thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. Hope we get to see everybody next year and stay safe, healthy, and happy.
All right, sounds good. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye bye.